Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. On behalf of my family, I'd like to welcome you all to this memorial service for my grandfather. For anyone who might not know, my name is Nathania Dallas. I'm Meredith Dallas's youngest grandchild. And please bear with me. Before I begin what I sort of have to say, I'd like to acknowledge my grandmother. I just want to acknowledge that these two people were married for 70 years, and that in everything that we're going to talk about today about my grandfather, she is also a part of all of that. This was a real partnership, and she just gave everything that she had, and it has been very difficult to lose him. So, I don't really have anything that I'm going to read. I just wanted to speak a little bit. I've been thinking about this moment for a long time. I wanted to start with a quote from Khalil Gibran. He says, "The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven?" And for me, that speaks to the fact that we're alive. And because we are alive, we get to experience both joy and sorrow. And that those things are two sides of the same coin. And that to the life of this man that we're here to talk about, he was so many things. He was so many things. And he was a human being. And his humanity, his constant striving to be true to himself, to express and explore what it is to be a human being, and creating the relationships that he created, that's what it is to be alive. And when we go from this world, we only lose one thing. We lose this breath. We lose the thing that lets us experience this joy and experience this sorrow. And so as we're gathered here today to talk about him, I want us also to be aware of this community that is here, of our own individual humanity and of our collective humanity. My grandfather was important to me, to say the least. He was there when I was born, and it was with his voice that people learned my name 3 days later at my naming ceremony. He used to walk me to the children's center. He used to take me downtown and buy me ice cream and bring me home passed out in my wagon, covered in chocolate ice cream. He made me my first bed, and he made me little shelves for my glass animals. He came to all my dance competitions that he ever could, and he used to take me to dinner at the Winds when I was little. And we would sit at this one table in the back, only this one table. And he would sit there and he would just look at me and we would have these conversations. And I was like 8 years old or 10 or 12 or whatever. And he really wanted to know about me. He wanted me to know about him. And for me, that was finding my voice. That was learning to listen to myself. And I think that's part of why I wanted to speak today, because I have something to say. And he taught me that I should stand up and say that. So I studied abroad in Senegal, West Africa, in my junior year of college. And I had this very profound experience of going to a funeral in a very small village. And the man who had died was believed to have been more than 100 years old. And the funeral was all day long, and the whole village was celebrating. From early in the morning, people came out and they started sacrificing animals and bringing in drinks, and they started dancing. And so the men started dancing, a few men at a time, and they were dancing. And then more men would join in. And then when everyone left to take a break for lunch, the women would come and they would dance alone when no one was watching. And this man was laid out in his sort of burial tent and all these offerings around him. And as the day went on and the men came back to dance, more and more and more people came to dance until there were hundreds of men dancing. And the music was so loud, and the women would go around and they would decorate the men with scarves, and people were firing shotguns and drinking beer and sacrificing all these things. And it was just, for me, it was totally just unbelievable. But what was so incredible was that this was pure celebration. I mean, there was no sadness. Because this man, in Africa, life is something that is lost more than it is long. And to have someone who had lived to be more than 100 years old was really significant, and that was something to be celebrated. And standing there and watching this, these hundreds of people just celebrating, I thought, this is what I want to do for my grandfather. This is what I want to do. So I say today, let's dance. Because this man, he lived a life that I hope I get to live. He had an incredible family, an incredible community. He got to have a career where he explored himself and his passions, and he got to turn that into another career, exploring those passions. That is significant. That is huge. And these relationships that we build while we are alive, that's what's left when we go. And he built some incredible, incredible relationships. And so as we share today, as we're here, let's dance. Let's dance for this man who was just incredible. So thank you all so much. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you for being here.